Hello. All right, I sat at the back earlier and I know how painful this is, so I thought I would do something fun with you guys, which is that you're going to help me time keep. And the people at the back, every 5 minutes, are going to start a Mexican wave. Do you know what a Mexican wave is? You must know what a Mexican wave is. People, just with your hands, you don't have to stand up, but just with your hands, you do a Mexican wave. If you're at the back and you know what a Mexican wave is, start it now. 1, 2, 3, go. And then it moves to the front. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Now you know what a Mexican wave is. So every 5 minutes, starting from now, do a Mexican wave for me because they will only give me a 3-minute warning. So thank you for that in advance for the people at the back. So we're going to talk about the Internet of Things, and unlike the previous speaker, I'm going to talk about how it's all about the things, and so making the Q&A even more exciting. I think that there's a lot of, oh, why hasn't it happened yet? And I'm going to basically make the point that you should just be a bit patient. So not unlike a teenager asking you when they can have fun and when can they drink and when can they have their car, it's just wait, it'll be fine, you'll get there, you'll get to 18. So we're kind of at that stage, and I'm going to talk about why. My background is reasonably simple. I'm a product designer. My first business, we were the first UK distributor of the Arduino. Who owns an Arduino board in this room? Keep your hand up if you've actually made something with it. Do better. And so I ran that business as a consultancy and design services and lots of things. I then closed it down, became a consultant, and I have a product called the Goodnight Lamp, which I will use as examples. So don't worry. You'll hear more about it. But basically, I make things and everyday products that connect to technology in new ways. I share that. So I run the IoT London community. And if there's not a meetup in Malmö around the Internet of Things, there should be. And I help my clients do that as well. So to quote Louis C.K., who I'm sure you know as a brilliant comedian, he has a wonderful sketch called Everything's Amazing and Nobody's Happy. We live in an absolutely fantastic time. We're in the West, so there aren't any crazy wars going on per se. Everybody's got technical devices that are worth hundreds of pounds. Everybody can stream this, live tweet this. Everything is kind of magical. And now we're entering a space where lots and lots of people can experiment with hardware, which they never could have done before. To make a product, to make a new product, never mind if it had tech or not, you would have needed to know the right people and maybe make something, sell it to someone. It was kind of obscure, whereas now it's actually quite exciting. But we're confused by that, and we're confused by a world where we also have a lot of old things around us. We have a lot of old processes around us that don't quite work. I can email you and I can DM you and Snapchat you, but I still have to walk to a post box to send in whatever piece of tax or whatever thing in a box that then goes somewhere that then might reach the person 3 days later. So we live in kind of in between technologies and in between worlds. We've also essentially run out of ideas that come from the 1950s because we sort of used those for a really long time and we got inspired by those, but we're running, okay, self-driving car, got it, watch, got it. Now we're going to have to move on to something else, and we don't quite know what this something else is. And I think that that's really exciting, and it should mean that everybody should be able to contribute new ideas to this. We don't have a war to get over. We don't have to hire all the engineers that used to be in the war to kind of make consumer things. So we don't have that idea push, but we have, every one of us, something in our hands that allows us to be creative with hardware now. But we also have lots of, problematic things around us that make us a bit like moody teenagers. So we have a consumption society and a capitalist society that actually doesn't really promote radical ideas. Radical ideas always feel a little dangerous. You go to the store and you see incremental ideas. You see different versions of the thing that you already buy. Everything's very familiar, and it has to be very familiar. Usually because there's someone there who has a frame of reference that's based on the 20th century technology, even if some of those ideas are actually really, really old. So James showed, for example, the microwave. Who can tell me here when the microwave was patented? In the 40s. Do you know how long it took before anybody had a bloody microwave in their homes? It was the 80s, it was the 90s. So it took a huge amount of time between idea and execution and then mass market adoption. And so in a way, it's kind of a mistake to take a software process and to kind of slap it onto hardware and say, well, everything should be very quick. And so our teenage self wants everything to be very quick because we've seen so many changes with the devices that we have. We see ideas pop up all the time, and we see a word pop up all the time. It's, the Internet of Things, the Internet of Things. That's only really been, for most people, about 2 years they've been listening to this. For other people, it's been 20. So maybe in 5, 10, 15, we might actually see some things. But right now, we're still at the idea stage. And really only because Christmas. Because everybody in this room will embrace an idea only once a year. Because suddenly it's Christmas and you've got to buy something for grandma, and then you go, oh God, I've got to buy something for grandma. And then you'll look around and you'll find something. And so anybody who's doing anything radical is going to have to be faced with a Christmas push. And if they can break at Christmas, then they can do well. If they can't, break at Christmas, they can't do well. And those are some of the realities that we sort of live in. We're also super confused about what we mean about the Internet of Things. The industry is as well. If you look at even very large corporates' description of the Internet of Things, there's often some, misconceptions. Sometimes we just mean smart. Sometimes we just mean M2M, which is machine to machine, which is an environment that's been around for a long time. Sometimes we don't even mean any of those things, and we just mean, connected to something somewhere, some piece of tech. So we're confused in our consumer lives. We're confused in concept. And we have no standards, we have nothing, no regulation around what we do, around what anybody creates. And we also have absolutely no sense of ethics whatsoever. So when we slap things onto ourselves, then we don't really think about the repercussions further down the line. So let's say you started wearing your glucose meter and your thermostat or your thermometer kind of temperature reader, and you had something else for diabetes, and you have something else. At some point, people around you are going to start worrying about you, or your employer is going to look at that and go, are you okay? So we don't see that right now. We just kind of get excited because we're teenagers, and that's okay. So just like teenagers, we don't really know what we're doing, which is also fine. And this is kind of why it matters. This conference is about complexity, and you can't tell me it hasn't been 5 minutes. Okay. God. Okay, this is terrible. Where are we? Okay. Because I'm not timekeeping this. So this conference is about complexity, and this is just the description for complexity, which I think is also the description for the Internet of Things. Because the Internet of Things is the connection between lots of things that also connect to each other, which makes it complex. So if you're an entrepreneur like myself, and you have a product like myself, and you're trying to do it all on your own, off your own back, you're not in an organization, you want to live the startup dream, or you want to live the small team dream, you have to think about all of those things at once and how they interrelate. And so that makes things very complex, but it means that that process is very slow. Whereas actually where we've really innovated, if you want real innovation in this field, it's actually in the innovation processes themselves. So if you look at how people used to come up with ideas, they had an idea, they would patent it, they would sell it to someone else, and then someone else might give them a royalty for it or a license for using the patent. Very simple, worked for hundreds of years. Then we sort of have this in-between space where we have an idea, we build a prototype, we might protect it, hopefully protect it, we then give it on to someone else or find partners to make the thing, show it off at trade shows, sell a batch, grow that business. Very traditional environment still. But this is kind of what we're doing now, which is all over the shop. We have ideas, we don't protect them, we put them up on crowdfunding, we have no way of making those ideas physically because we wait for the money first, and then we might find some partners. Maybe we don't, maybe we're late on the campaign, oh my God, we're losing our minds, we go ballistic, and then everybody goes, the Internet of Things is not coming. And that's because we have completely reinvented the process of inventing before we even got to the process of good ideas. So when we look at Kickstarter and we say, oh, look at Kickstarter. No, look at Kickstarter. Look at how we're kind of coming up with amazing ideas, and the market decides on its own what goes and what doesn't. And your team decides what goes and what doesn't. And that's the adventure of business. It's not the adventure of the Internet of Things, it's the adventure of any business. And it's always down to 80% of SMEs will die within 2 years, and that applies to anybody doing anything physical. But basically, we're in the business of being patient and just waiting for the right moment to do something. These are 10 years of prototypes of the Goodnight Lamp. The Goodnight Lamp is a family of internet-connected lamps. You have a big lamp and little lamps. You give the little lamps away to anyone around the world, and when you turn the big lamp on, the little one turns on. Very simple idea. You might use it to give to your grandmother so that when she goes to bed at night, then you know she's okay, or your daughter who's gone off to college in another country to know when's a good time to call. Very simple communication. Literally turning lamps on and off. And it's taken me 10 years. Because the process of doing these things takes a long time. Coming up with the idea, 2005, under the same school as Simona Maschi, who is running the CIID right across the bridge, name check. And then 2012, started prototyping that actual idea. That's about 100 pounds. Then you prototype some more. This is about 2,000 pounds. And then you work with professionals, which is about 50,000 pounds at that stage. And this is actually the electronics that are currently in the lamps that are now being made. And so, if anything, the Internet of Things is about learning about supply chains and learning about how to make a product, how to make a product and have that come to life. All of that knowledge is locked into industries that didn't need to communicate to anybody else before. Supply chain is a well-guarded secret. But that's why you do things. You do things because suddenly you learn a lot. And as a professional, one would hope that the journey of being an entrepreneur is about learning, is about not having all the answers. And so whether this product is successful or not shouldn't never be a reflection of what the industry is. And the industry is all the mini ideas that you see on Kickstarter. And also all the non-ideas that are kind of sitting on a desk on like the 4 people who made something with their Arduinos. Moving beyond that and quitting your day job and deciding to do something is what's exciting about the Internet of Things. So of course it hasn't happened yet because there's only 4 of us out of the 30 who bought a tool, who've actually used the tool to do something. But making that extra step is a really big deal. And to take a couple of, or to pervert a well-known sentence, I think that not only do the tools we make shape us, I think the products that we make shape us. The products that we decide to be successful shape our lives and shape our societies. We're, as a previous speaker mentioned, we're in a lot of trouble as a society, as a global community, and actually there's a lot of things that we know we need, but we just don't want to think about. And maybe it's time that we actually put our money where our mouth was. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about better living, we talk about all these things, you have to buy in that way. Therefore, you have to make those ideas, those tiny ideas on Kickstarter, possible, feasible. You have to support them because they're the right things and not the wrong things. And we need a lot more ideas for communities that just aren't sexy. They're not the sort of 30-something white, middle-class designer types. They are elderly, they have needs, they're disabled, they have needs, and they are a market. They have money, they have support from their families who want to make sure that they're well, that they communicate well with their loved ones. These are ideas that need to happen. They need to take a space in our lives. Because really, ultimately, the people who win are the people who make us a better society. They're not the people who make us better at answering email. although that's great, but you know, I'm kind of tired of answering email. So really, all you have to do is jump. All you have to do is actually get started with any tool that you like, whether it's Littlebits, Arduino, Raspberry Pi, you name it. Become someone who does that on the weekend, because you'll find that you'll suddenly have an idea about something that you really care about. And you might not make it yourself. You might get a friend to make it for you, but suddenly you understand what it's like to become an entrepreneur in this space, and you don't sort of judge things because you see them online, but you actually get involved yourself. And to quote the note that the Labour Party left to the Conservative Party in the UK before they took office, I'm afraid there is no money. There is very little funding around this space, traditional funding around this space yet. And so if you do it, you have to do it off your own back because you think that this is the best idea that you could possibly come up with. And that will power you for years to come. It has powered me for 10 years. Good luck, and thank you very much.
Good stuff.